الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تبارك وتعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله تبارك وتعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد، وبارك اللهم على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He ought to be praised. We thank Him for His generosity, for this ni'mah of Islam. Alhamdulillah ala ni'mat al-Islam wa kafa biha ni'mah. We continue inshallah ta'ala with our series, the methodology of Ahlu, Sunnah and Jama when it comes to the creed and when it comes to the deeds. Before we go back or we go into the material that, of course, it is based on the book of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, I would love to go back to the hadith al-Qudusi that I mentioned in the khutbah of Jum'ah. I did not get a chance to finish, as it is a tremendous hadith that we get so many benefits from, and is a very close hadith to my heart. It is a hadith that was collected by a Muslim on the authority of Abu Dharr. Abu Dharr radiyallahu anhu, one of the oldest Sahaba, one of the very first or a few first that entered Islam. And inshallah ta'ala one day I will mention his story, as it is very, very fascinating how he came to become a Muslim. And subhanAllah, he narrated this hadith that is a divine hadith. And I've explained before the difference between the regular hadith, the hadith al-Nabawi, the prophetic hadith, or hadith al-Qudusi, the divine hadith. And this happens to be a divine hadith. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في هذا الحديث: يا عبادي إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالموا، وقرئت فلا تظالموا. يا عبادي إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالموا. My servants, I've made oppression unlawful for myself, and I've made it unlawful for you, so do not oppress each other. Al-Dhulm. And this, by the way, Al-Dhulm, oppression, is something that people, a lot of times, they take very lightly, but it's heavy on the day of reckoning. Al-Dhulmu ظُلُمَاتٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Oppression is darknesses on the day of reckoning, as the Prophet ﷺ said. And we all know the hadith of the bankrupt, al-muflis. أَتَدْرُونَ مَنِ الْمُفْلِسِ? Do you know who is the bankrupt? They say, Ya Rasulullah, al-muflis وَالَّذِي لَيْسَ لَهُ مَالٌ وَلَا مَتَاعٌ. dirhamun wa la mata'. This is a person that doesn't have any money, doesn't have any possessions. قال بل المفلس صلى الله عليه وسلم. Al-Muflis, the real bankrupt, is the one that comes with salah. He comes on the day of reckoning with salah, with zakat, siyam, hajj. He's got all these good deeds. وَيَأْتِي وَقَدْ ظَلَمَ هَذَا. And he comes and having oppressed this one. وَسَفَكَ مَالَ دَمَ هَذَا وَأَخَذَ مَالَ هَذَا. He spilled the blood of this one, and he took the money of this one, and he, subhanAllah, he's got, what does he have? ظلم. He has oppression on his record. فَيَأْخُذُ هَذَا مِنْ حَسَنَاتِهِ وَهَذَا مِنْ حَسَنَاتِهِ. This one takes from his hasanat, and the other one takes from his hasanat. حَتَّى إِذَا فَنِيَتْ حَسَنَاتُهُ. Until when all of his deeds are finished, are over, what happens? يُؤْخَذُ مِنْ أَوْزَارِهِمْ. Allah Ta'ala takes from their bad deeds, from their negative part of the negative deeds on their record, فَتُطْرَحُ عَلَيْهِ فَيُطْرَحُ فِي النَّارِ. And those deeds are put on him, and he's thrown in the hellfire. نَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Now mind you, have to understand something. We have to remind ourselves of something. These are deeds that were there on the person's record. These are good deeds that were there. What does it mean? That means that he did them the right way, and he had the right intention, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted them. Because Allah does not accept all the deeds. You think that every salah that we perform, Allah is going to accept it automatically? But there are some people that tend, from this ummah, that tend to believe that. And this is a Christian mentality. You tell them, well, how do you know? They say, well, why wouldn't Allah accept? Of course He's going to accept. Subhanallah. The epitome of ignorance. Allah Ta'ala accepts only the things that or the deeds that He sees that fit the criteria that He put forth, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that have sincerity, that were done the right way, that were done according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, etc., etc., and the list goes on. These deeds here, they adhere to that. They were accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that means a person spent a great deal of effort and time in performing these acts of worship, and he comes and loses them just like that because of oppression. So obviously, oppression is something that we have to take very seriously. We can't take lightly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He's the one, subhanahu الذي لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. Nobody asks Allah, but He still made oppression forbidden for Himself. Allah Ta'ala will never oppress anyone. Then subhanAllah, He makes sure that His servants understand the gravity of the situation, that they should never oppress each other. يا عبادي كلكم ضال إلا من هديته فاستهدوني أهدكم. SubhanAllah, my servants, all of you are misguided. And this is the nature of human beings. We are misguided, we're lost. We have ignorance. Except for the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala handpicks, and He gives them guidance. And subhanAllah, be glad and be proud that you might be from those people. The fact that you're here in the masjid, that you perform the salah, that you are attending the halaqah of ilm, that you might be, all of us might be from those people. فَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي بِنِعْمَتِهِ تَتِمُّ الصَّالِحَاتِ. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this ni'mah. Allah ta'ala, the ones that are guided are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does guide, subhanahu wa ta'ala. يا عبادي كلكم جائع إلا من أطعمته فاستطعموني أطعمكم. My servants, all of you are hungry, except for the ones that I feed. So ask me to feed you, and I will feed you. And you remember I commented on this in the khutbah of Jum'ah. People that, subhanAllah, are away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that mean? What does that really mean? The food is right here in front of me. My refrigerator is full. My pocket is full. The Walmart is open 24 hours. What do you mean? I can go and get my own food. And I say it again. Wallahi alladhi la ilaha ghayruh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow for that morsel of food to go in your mouth and for it to go through your throat to your stomach, by Allah, it will not happen. We see that all the time. Someone staying in a restaurant, right? He cuts a chunk of meat, he puts it in his mouth, then all of a sudden, what, he's choking, the paramedics are there, huh? Was he allowed to eat that meal? No, he was not. SubhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that allows for that morsel of food or drink of water to go into your system. يا عبادي كلكم عار إلا من كسوته فاستكسوني أكسكم. My servants, all of you are without any clothes except for the ones that I put clothes on. So ask me to clothe you and I will. SubhanAllah. And this is the same. Person will tell you, I have the money, the store is right there, and go get my own clothes. If Allah does not allow it, it will not happen. يا عبادي إنكم تخطئون بالليل والنهار وأنا, and this is the akhir, this is the هذا سبحان الله هذا من الأخبار السارة مما يثلج الصدور, from the good news. وأنا أغفر الذنوب جميعا. حط عليها مليون سطر. وأنا أغفر الذنوب جميعا فاستغفروني أغفر لكم. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا. Allah Ta'ala says, my servants, and all of you make mistakes, fall in error, fall in transgressions, and sins by night and day and night, or night and day, and I forgive all of the sins. So ask me to forgive you, and I will forgive you. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, O my servants, say, O my servants, the ones that push the limits, transgress all the limits, أسرفوا على أنفسهم, they pushed every limit when it comes to sin and transgression. لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. Do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah. For verily Allah forgives all of the sins. Allah is most forgiving. Now, subhanAllah, these ayat and this part of the hadith, this is not a license to go and sin and say, you know what, let me do whatever I want. Then subhanAllah, Allah is in Allah Ghafurur Rahim. Many Muslims live by that, unfortunately. And this is also things that came into the Muslim world from the Christians. This is a Christian mentality, just like, subhanAllah, the narrators of the hadith of Jibreel, the famous hadith of Jibreel, they said they used to live in Al-Basra, and there were people that talk about Al-Qadr. They talk about Al-Qadr, meaning they say there's no Qadr. يقولون لا قدر والأمر أنف. Al-Amr Unuf means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only knows things after they happen. He does not know them before they happen. There were people that like that. And these people were going to meet one of the Sahaba to tell them about this problem. SubhanAllah. One of the perpetrators of this is a person that had knowledge and had memorization of the Quran. His name is Ma'bad al-Juhani. This Ma'bad al-Juhani, when you read the books of Sunnah, you find out that he got this information. He learned this from a Nasrani. He learned this from a Christian by the name of Sawsan al-Nasrani. So a lot of these ideologies and ideas came to us from Christianity. Like for example, this what I'm talking about. The fact that do whatever you want, Allah is forgiving. And of course, the Christians, and when I talk about the Christians, is not to be rude or to knock anyone, but these are realities. These are things that we compare our religions. And subhanAllah, the Christians, they even went a step further and said, no, that we do whatever we want because there is someone who died in order for our sins to be forgiven. So they took it a step further. But some Muslims, they have this idea, unfortunately, subhanAllah. So, meaning, ya ikhwa, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving doesn't make you go out and do whatever you want, and counting on that, because Allah Ta'ala forgives who He will subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He looks at the heart and He knows the intentions. Ya ibadi, and I love this one, ya ikhwa. إنكم لن تبلغوا ضري أو ضري كلاهما صحيح فتضروني وَلَن تَبْلُغُوا نَفْعِي فَتَنْفَعُونِي. Ya Allah. This is, يعني يا إخوة, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing you His self-sufficiency and independence from all of His creation. You will not reach or have the ability to harm me, whatever you do. That's what the ones that go and they harm and they curse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are people like that. Who do they harm? They only harm themselves. Allah ta'ala is saying, you will not be able to harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَن تَبْلُغُوا نَفْعِي فَتَنْفَعُونِي. And you will not be able to have the ability to benefit Allah in any way, shape or form. Meaning that your worship does not add anything to you, to Allah's dominion. This comes in this hadith too. And your transgression, your sin, does not harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way, shape or form. That's why, if you remember, I asked the question before, someone that insults or curses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala versus someone that curses the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who is held more accountable than the other? Can the person who curses Allah be forgiven? And the person that curses the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, can he be forgiven? Are they equal? Or how should we deal with that? And subhanAllah, the answer, the ulama say that the person that curses Allah, if he repents, he should be forgiven, because he will not be able to harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But someone who curses the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a Muslim world, in a Muslim setting, and subhanAllah, كما قال العلماء, لا تصل إليه معارة السب. Allah Azza wa Jalla, لا تصل إليه معارة السب. That cursing does not harm him, whatsoever. But ولكن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنسان من بني آدم وتصل إليه معارة السب. The cursing will harm him. So the person that, if someone is seized in a Muslim world, in a Muslim setting, someone is seized having cursed the Prophet ﷺ, you said that he's given the opportunity to repent, but the had is executed on him, subhanAllah. That he's put to death because of this, by the judge and the due process. So subhanAllah, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, that you will not be able to harm me, and you will not be able to benefit me. يا عبادي لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم كانوا على أتقى قلب رجل واحد منكم ما زاد ذلك في ملك شيئا. يا Allah. My servants, if the first one of mankind and the last one, talking about Adam, we're talking about that shepherd that the Prophet ﷺ, the last person that will die from the sons of Adam is a shepherd that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. The first one of you and the last one of you and all of mankind and all of the jinn, they were all of them were on the heart of the Most Highs of you. Meaning they all had the heart of the Prophet ﷺ. That will not increase anything to the dominion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None whatsoever. And vice versa. يا عبادي لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم كانوا على أفجر قلب رجل واحد منكم ما نقص ذلك من ملكي شيئا. The contrary of it, the opposite idea. If the first one of you and the last one of you and the mankind and jinn, they were all on the heart, they all had the heart of the worst. They say they were the heart of Fir'aun, Qarun, Haman, or maybe this guy over here, Allahu A'lam. SubhanAllah, they had the heart of the worst of all of you. That would not decrease from Allah's dominion one bit. SubhanAllah. Ya ibadi, and listen to this. Imagine when for the ones that have, mashallah, a few kids like me, and all of them come to you, and each one of them needs something. You got many voices talking to you. Alhamdulillah, I developed the ability to listen to a few people because I used to teach Quran. So a lot of times I would have 3 or 4 reciting at the same time from different places, and pretty much I was able to follow with them. But not everyone has that. the ability to multitask and hear. Now listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. يا عبادي لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم قاموا في صعيد واحد فسألوني فأعطيت كل إنسان مسألته ما نقص ذلك من عندي إلا كما ينقص المخيط إذا أدخل البحر. يا الله, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the first one of you, the last one of you, the mankind and jinn, all of them will stand in the same place, and each one of them asks me what he needs. Imagine that. The billions of creation, all of them asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the same time what they want, what they need. And not only that, not only he listens to them and he hears them, he gives them what they ask for. Well, guess what? It will not decrease from the dominion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or what it will decrease from the dominion of Allah. It's just like the needle if it was thrown in the ocean. Throw a needle in the ocean, take it out, see how much water it has. That's how much it will decrease from the dominion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. Ya ibadi, subhanallah, and this is a beautiful conclusion. Ya ibadi, إنما هي أعمالكم أحصيها لكم ثم أوفيكم إياها ولم يقل أحصيها عليكم. عندي فيها رحمة, موقف رحمة. أحصيها لكم. These are your deeds. I just count it for you. I hold you accountable for it. وأوفيكم إياها, and I will reward you accordingly. فمن وجد خيرا فليحمد الله. Whoever finds that which is good, let him praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you open your record on the day of reckoning and you find things that are positive and good, then praise Allah. Don't praise yourself. Praise Allah, because He's the one that guided you and made it possible for you. ومن وجد غير ذلك فلا يلومن إلا نفسه. Whoever finds the opposite of that, meaning that he finds negative things in his record, let him only blame himself. SubhanAllah. Because the guidance of Allah was there, and that person refused to take it, and he turned his back on it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you and I from the ones that always ask Allah and direct ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a discipline that all of us have to learn. Before we go and ask people for things, we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. We ask Him first and foremost. He's the one that holds the power to make these things happen for us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the ones that always follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يعني يعيشون حياتهم على مراد الله ومراد رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We live our lives according to that which Allah and His Messenger want from us. يقول ابن سيرين رحمه الله تعالى إن هذا العلم دين فلينظر أحدكم عمن يأخذ دينه. He said, verily, Ibn Sirin said, verily, this knowledge is a religion. He's not talking about the knowledge of Islam. It's a religion. So let one of you look from whom he's taking his religion, meaning check, double check, make sure that you take it from the right sources. And there's no doubt that every person takes his religion from that group that he belongs to. That group of people that he belongs to. And as we're talking about, subhanAllah, this Manahij Ahlu Sunnah wal Jama', the methodology of Ahlu Sunnah wal Jama'. And if you remember, I gave you many ahadith of al-Firq. The hadith that the Ummah was split into 71 and 72, and this Ummah was split into 73. And subhanAllah, you will find that every person will take his religion from the leaders of that division, that shu'bah, that group that he belongs to. You'll find that the Khawarij take from the so-called ulama of the Khawarij. You'll find that, for example, in a place like Oman, Abadiyin is a section of the Khawarij. They take their religion and their deen from their scholars. You'll find that the Shia, they take their knowledge and their religion from their leaders. SubhanAllah. Does that make them on the path of the truth? No, it does not, subhanAllah. So I tell you, this silsila, this series is for us to know where we stand. It's a beautiful book by Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah to really show us the way. How do we know that group that is on the truth, the group that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that they're the only ones that will be saved. The Prophet ﷺ, all of it is in the hellfire except for one. But Ahlu ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, like I said, put together this series to show the believers, to show the students of knowledge, etc. How do you know from these groups who is on the path of Allah, who is on the path of the truth, who follows the true religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept on the day of reckoning? And as I mentioned many times, in summarizing this whole idea, is subhanAllah the ones that obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the understanding of the Sahaba and the understanding of the Tabi'in and the first 3 centuries that the Prophet ﷺ praised. That's why if you remember when it was that time for where some of them celebrate the so-called birth of the Prophet ﷺ, Mawlid Nabawi, I mentioned to you many times that, subhanAllah, it is something that none of the Sahaba or the Tabi'in or the scholars from the 3 centuries that the Prophet ﷺ praised ever even heard of this. It was until the Shia, the Fatimiyun, took over a big part of the Muslim world, and they wanted to compete with the Christians and imitate the Christians. You celebrate the birth of your prophet, whoever you follow, we're going to celebrate the birth of our prophet. So it was kind of a competition with the others, and they started, subhanAllah, the worship of people of the grave, and they started, subhanAllah, this Eid al-Mawlid al-Nabawi that does not exist. If it was something important, then the Prophet ﷺ would have told us about it. The Nabi ﷺ came to teach you and I the Tawheed, first and foremost. And he ﷺ came to teach you and I the way to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the correct way. The way that Allah ta'ala will accept on the day of reckoning. And he came to teach you and I the good behavior, husn al-khuluq, the good dealings. And as I told you many times, this religion stands on these 3 legs. Al-aqidah, the creed, the correct creed. Al-ibadah, the correct worship. Wal-mu'amalat, the dealing with people. All of them are extremely important. If somebody can be good, successful in his aqidah, and successful when he comes to his worship, and he will find himself from the people of that hadith, al-mabalim, al-muflis, because his creed was good, his worship was good, and it was accepted by Allah, but his dealings are not good, and he oppresses people, and he ends up losing all of his hasanat on the day of reckoning. فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أحسن الناس خلقا. He came to teach us the good manners, a good mannerism. ولما سئلت عائشة رضي الله عنها كما أخرج البخاري عن سعد بن هشام قال سألت عائشة رضي الله عنها عن خلق النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقالت كان خلقه القرآن. Sa'd ibn Hisham said that I asked Aisha radiallahu anha about the mannerism of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said that his mannerism was Al-Quran. وذكرت لكم هذا الحديث في الحصة الماضية أظن، حديث الذي أخرجه أبو داود عن أبي أمامة قال صلى الله عليه وسلم أنا زعيم ببيت في روض الجنة لمن ترك المراء ولم يحق. Subhanallah, I am the leader of a setting. You remember this hadith? Leader of a setting in Al-Jannah for whoever leaves off Al-Mira. Al-Mira huwa Al-Jidal. Whoever leaves off debate, even if he thinks he is right. So subhanAllah, you want to sit with the Prophet ﷺ in this particular setting, then whenever there's an opportunity where people are debating, and even if you think you have the truth, do not debate. If you debate, they always lead to division, they lead to subhanallah, quarrels between people. ثم قال وبيت في وسط الجنة لمن ترك الكذب ولو كان مازحا. And another house in the middle of Al-Jannah forever leaves off lying even if he is joking. So subhanAllah, that puts the careers and the sustenance that all those comedians get, because they have to make up stuff to make people laugh. SubhanAllah, all of that haba'an manthura, SubhanAllah. So that's why one of the people that you could not take the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, someone who is a comedian by trade, someone who stands and makes people laugh, he's one of the people that you could not, even if the hadith is sahih, you cannot take it from him. SubhanAllah. Na'udhu billahi min dhalik. وبيت في أعلى الجنة لمن حسن خلقه. And a house in the highest place in the Jannah for the ones that display good mannerism. Salama radiallahu anha, she came to the Prophet ﷺ, and because she was married to Abu Salama, and when he passed away, the Prophet ﷺ was trying to console her. And she said, and he gave her the dua, "Oh Allah, Allahumma ajurni fi musibati wa akhlifni khayran minha." قالت ومن خير من أبي سلمة. He said, the Prophet ﷺ teaching her this dua, "Oh Allah, replace me in ajurni fi musibati, console me in this calamity that I have, and replace me that which is better." She said, "Who is better than Abu Salama?" Subhanallah. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just say the dua. She said the dua. She ended up marrying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. من هو خير من أبي سلمة؟ النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Salama came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, "Ya Rasulullah, a woman from us would marry more than one man. She'd marry one, he will divorce her, she'd marry another one, or he will pass away, she'd marry another one. Who is she with in Al-Jannah?" فماذا قال صلى الله عليه وسلم؟ قال أحسنهم خلقا. The one from them with the best mannerism. وكما تعلمون قد ذكرنا أن مسألة الكذب في المزاح حرمها الله تبارك وتعالى. هناك حديث سأذكر لكم بعضها. هذا في مسند عبد الله بن مبارك عن بهز بن حكيم عن أبيه عن جده قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقول: ويل لمن يحدث فيكذب ليضحك به القوم. ويل له ويل له ويل له. Woe unto, the Prophet said, woe unto the person that lies in order to make people laugh. Lies in order to make people laugh. Woe unto him, woe unto him, woe unto him. 3 times. Well, subhanallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. Because a lot of us, ya ikhwa, and I am one of them, I admit, when I was a young person, I enjoyed it. I don't remember, I enjoyed, being humorous and making people laugh and things like that. Not professionally, but just, with friends at school. But I don't remember ever lying to do it. But there are people, literally, this is a disease with them. They thrive on that, They have to make up things and make up stories in order to make themselves either more interesting or to make people laugh. The city where the sheikh comes from, mashallah, they're the professionals at this. May Allah forgive us and forgive them. فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كما قلت لكم أحسن الناس خلقا. فقد روى البيهقي والبزار عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. Verily, I was sent in order to complete the good manners. Why did he say complete? What did he say completely? Utammima. What did he say to to teach people mannerism, to bring mannerism to people. Why did he say that? Who can tell me? Father, you have any idea? أحسنت يا أبا عبد الله. يعني عبقري الفلوجة صاحي مع أيوب ما شاء الله. الله يجزيه خير. لأن سبحان الله ولقد ذكرته لكم من قبل. I mentioned this before that when people hear that Arab في الجاهلية, they hear Jahiliyyah ignorance, so automatically they're thinking these are people that are savages, they have no kind of manners whatsoever. But yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not choose haphazardly. Allah ta'ala chose the Arabs for a reason, and there's a good reason. Is that they had nobility and they had mannerism, subhanAllah. The Jahiliyyah, the ignorance that people keep talking about, is a Jahiliyyah of Aqidah, is an ignorance of creed. It's not an ignorance, a lack of knowledge that people that know nothing, but it is an ignorance of creed. These are people that had the wrong creed. They were on the wrong path. They had the wrong kind of worship. They worshipped the wrong thing. And it was not always like that, as I told you before. The Arabs were on the millah of Ibrahim alayhi salam from the time of Ibrahim and Ismail until 500 years before the bi'tah of the Prophet, before the Prophet was sent as a prophet and a messenger. And it was a man by the name of what? Who did that? Who was responsible for this? Ahsan, Amr ibn Luhay. And I tell you the story again very quickly. When, if you remember, when the incident with Hajar and her son Ismail, the tribe of Jurhum is the one that found them the first time. They asked permission to use the water, they settled there. That's how Mecca started, right? So subhanAllah, after that, Ibrahim and Ismail, people were on the Tawheed. 500 years before, the Prophet ﷺ, another tribe by the name of Khuza'ah challenged the tribe of Jurhum for the leadership of Mecca. And they had a battle where a lot of people died, but Khuza'ah was stronger and they prevailed. And subhanAllah, they kicked Jurhum out of Mecca, except for a few people that remained, and they took the leadership of Mecca. The leader of Khuza'ah was the man by the name of Amr ibn Luhay. And this man was the absolute leader. He had Allah Ta'ala gave him everything, gave him honor, gave him wealth, gave him leadership. So his word became law. And subhanAllah, he would, of course, all the people of Mecca were merchants. He would go to greater Syria and trade. And subhanAllah, in one of his trips, he saw people worshiping an idol. And he said, what is this? I don't know if he was a Lat first. I think he was a Lat as one of them. They said, this is Allah, this is the God of the rain. He said, Wallahi, we need rain in Mecca. We have no water whatsoever. We have to go distances to find water. How much is it? They gave him a 2-for-1 special. He had a good coupon, I guess. He ended up getting it, bringing it to Mecca. SubhanAllah, deities for sale, huh? Deities, you buy it first, then you worship them. That's how the ignorance started, because these people were not ignorant people. He brought this, and he said to the people of Mecca, all of you are to worship this. This is the God of rain. He's going to bring rain to Mecca. You worship it. Another trick, he found other idols he brings, until subhanAllah, you have Allah al-Uzza and all of them. He even ordered for them to worship Isaf and Na'ilah. And I told you the story of these two. Isaf and Na'ilah were a young man and a young woman from Yemen that loved each other. And they wanted to get married, but their folks would not let them get married. So they talked about meeting in the Muslim of Hajj and Haram. But when they came to Al-Haram, they took advantage of a time where people were heedless and they committed fornication in Al-Haram. and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned them into stone. And for the longest time, they had them in the Safa and Marwa for people to be warned, do not transgress the limits of Allah in al-Haram, because Allah will punish you on the spot. This man brought Isat al-Na'ila, and he had people worship them as well. So the misguided started with this. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, the day that they had the solar eclipse, and the only time that the Prophet ﷺ prayed the long prayer of the solar eclipse, and it's the ones that were with us, we prayed that one day here. He prayed the long prayer and he did the khutbah. And subhanAllah, in that prayer, when he was leading that salah, he saw two things. He saw the woman that went to the hellfire because of a cat. And subhanAllah, it did not feed him, it neither fed it, nor did she let it go fend for itself until the cat died. Allah Ta'ala put her in the hellfire for this. The Prophet saw that in this particular salah. And he saw Amr ibn Luhay. قال رأيت عمر بن لحي يجر قتبه أي يجر أمعاءه في النار أن غير دين العرب. I saw Amr ibn Luhay dragging his entrails in the hellfire because he's the one that changed the religion of the Arabs. So, I'm talking about all of this. The Arabs had a lot of good characteristics. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose them to carry the last message to mankind and the only universal message. All the other prophets, you'll find, for example, the Christians that preach, like for example, Jehovah's Witnesses, they will tell you that we have to carry the message of the Lord to every corner of the world. Nothing could be farther from the truth, because in the Bible it tells them that Jesus was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Isa alayhi salam was a local prophet. Musa was a local prophet. They were sent to their people. They were never told by Allah to go preach to beyond their borders, beyond the limits of their own race. They only were told to preach to their own people. Except for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was sent. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We only sent you as a mercy to all of the alamin. Mankind, is a jinn, is all of the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but especially the ones al-mukallafin, the ones that are supposed to worship Allah, that will be held accountable on the day of reckoning, which is mankind and the jinn, subhanAllah. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not choose haphazardly. The Prophet ﷺ, the mannerisms were there. The Prophet ﷺ came to perfect them by doing what? By teaching the correct creed. The Arabs were people that would die gladly for any cause. The cause of the tribe, the cause of honor, they will die for anything. The Prophet ﷺ gave them the right cause. Carrying the flag of the Tawheed, carrying the flag of La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah. روى الإمام مالك في موطئه قال ذلك عن معاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنه قال آخر ما أوصاني به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حين وضعت رجلي في الغرز أن قال أحسن خلقك للناس يا معاذ. The Prophet ﷺ was sending Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, and Mu'adh was sent to the Sham, was sent to the Yemen to be in charge there to propagate Islam. He said the last thing that the Prophet ﷺ told me as soon as I put my foot in the stirrup of the horse. Imagine, he has his foot about to climb on top of the horse. The Prophet ﷺ tells him, أحسن خلقك للناس. Correct and perfect your manners with people. Have good manners with people, ya Mu'adh. Because you're going to be calling people to Allah, and you're going to be in charge of that area, and have observed good mannerism with people. وروى الإمام أحمد والترمذي وغيرهما عن معاذ رضي الله عنه قلت يا رسول الله علمني ما ينفعني. Mu'adh said, Ya Rasulullah, teach me that which will benefit me. And Mu'adh was from the young Sahaba that really learned from the Prophet ﷺ, and they became scholars because they learned from the Prophet ﷺ at a very early age. He said, teach me something that will benefit me. قال اتق الله حيث ما كنت. Fear Allah wherever you are. Have piety for Allah wherever you are. وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحوها. And follow the bad deed with the good deed, so that you will erase it. Yeah, did you hear that? Did you hear that? SubhanAllah. Allah, the Prophet is telling you through Quran, that if you do the good deed after the bad deed, you have an opportunity to erase it. Yeah. Allahu Akbar. SubhanAllah. Yani, these are things that we hear all the time. But I'm reminding you and reminding myself so that we wake up to this. You find yourself falling into a transgression, follow it with a good deed right away. And Allah will give you the opportunity to erase it. SubhanAllah. اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحوها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. And the last one, and SubhanAllah, be around the people, behave with the people using good, lofty mannerism. So important, ya ikhwan. Wallahi, as you know, Allah Ta'ala said, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَى إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Who has a better speech than the one that goes to Allah and does good deeds and says, I am from the Muslims. So our duty as Muslims, all of us, SubhanAllah, besides our own worship and our own creed, is to deliver this message to everyone that we can. But the only way to start, the starting point is husn al-khuluq, the good mannerism. Because SubhanAllah, it's not about preaching, it's not about pushing the information on someone, it's about what they see from you. How is your mannerism? How is your behavior? And that opens the door. They'll be the ones that come and ask you, why do you do this? Why do you do that? SubhanAllah. Allah, so many incidents when I was working in the world, alhamdulillah, alladhi afana. Instances where you have people, because they see you go and pray on time. When you have any time, you pick up the Quran and you read. You were doing things that they're not used to. They come and ask you. They come and ask you why. They open the door. Why do you do this? And they give you an opportunity. Even negative situations will open the door for you. I don't know if I told you the story before. One of the jobs I had, because of my back, normally you're supposed to be standing and something. So I was using a chair or a stool. And there was, when I came to the place, there was someone using my chair or my stool. It was a woman. So I waited patiently, and I said, I'm sorry, do you mind? Because I have a bad back. And she's like, oh, of course. She got up. Before I sat down, I started doing this on the seat. Doing this like this. Like that. So another woman saw me. She's like, well, that's not nice. I said, what are you talking about? What do you think I'm doing here? She said, what, she smells bad? Is that what you're implying? I said, no. I said, let me tell you. Our Prophet had a woman come to him and sit down next to him, and she was asking questions. And as soon as she left, a man came in and he wanted to sit in the same place. So the Prophet ﷺ grabbed him from his hand and pulled him to the other side. I said, why? Why do you think? She had no idea. I said, because the Prophet wanted to protect him. He did not want him to feel the heat that the woman left behind and get any ideas. He wanted to keep his heart pure. So I said, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm just clearing the heat of the other woman to protect myself and protect my heart. She said, wow, that is amazing. She couldn't have thought of that in a million years. SubhanAllah. So even if we have good mannerism, even in negative situations, there are doors for a da'wah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I enjoy your company, and I would love to stay here all night, but you see my condition is getting worse. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you and I from the ones that truly follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and from the ones that follow the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from the ones that observe good mannerisms. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والحمد لله رب العالمين وجزاكم الله خيرا.